It's very hot outside.
Yeah.
I just drove around to Sombra to see what was happening. Not much.
Not much somewhere.
Not much Sombra, yeah. But it's been a pretty tough season. Harvest, no? What do you think describes the temperature change?
We have a specific condition inside the country because we had El Niño, now we change for La Niña. And the temperature is too high inside the country and the coffee region, and the temperature affect a lot the extracture in terms of the physiology. And these phenomena change the chemical perspective inside the plant, change the all activities inside the plant, and these phenomena move to the cherries, and what we are seeing now is it's like how can I say, está encurtando o ciclo de maturação.
It's shortening the maturation cycle.
Yes. Can that be quantified somehow in terms of time? Because it seems to me that there is no maturation time. It's either underripe and then immediately the physiology. You mentioned anabolic to catabolic yesterday.
Yeah, the C3 and the C2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the plants are changing from
The metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the metabolism, like the type of the metabolism is being forced, right, to change because of that, to adapt.
Normally, because the coffee plant is C3.
Yes.
C3. When we have
what is C3?
C3 is the carbon, the fixed carbon that the plant work. It's like, for example, the plant C3 needs a lot of nitrogen to work.
To build.
Yeah, to build. And the temperature is the big problem for the coffee, Arabica coffee, for example. We have a line. After the specific point, the metabolisms change for C2.
Yes.
And this metabolism, the plant is going to access the carbon to use and for the different perspective.
Okay.
If you will have...
So you're going to store first and then it's going to use it. Yeah. So it seems that you have the anabolic route as the C3, so making an analogy. So the C3 for the plant would be the anabolic route. So you're building up tissues as we build up muscles. And when they turn the metabolism route to C2, it seems that the plant is entering the catabolic route. So they are accessing the constructed tissue to expand, to get energy from it.
It's too much stress for the coffee plant.
Yeah.
It's too much.
But does the same conversion from C3 to C2 happen below and above that threshold, or is it different below as well?
No, it happens because the temperature is too high.
Yes.
And the plant change their mind. It's like too much. The plant needs to access another metabolic way to works.
Yeah.
And
survive.
But there's an optimum temperature band in which coffee will metabolize correctly and to produce cherry, right? Let's say it's below 13 degrees, above 13 and below 25?
25, 26 is the maximum. For yesterday, for example, we had 29.
Okay.
Today, probably we're going to see 30.
Yes.
31. It's too much for the Arabica.
And that's manifest. Oh, my other question was, is that a function of a slow change over time? Can it be reversed? Or is it immediate? Once the plant goes into this catabolic route, does it take time to unwind that, or can it happen
Okay, so
quickly?
Going back and forth, is it possible to go back and forth from C3 to C2 and then go back to C3 again?
Yes.
So it's sustained periods of higher temperatures that are doing this. And that's manifesting in essentially cherries going ripe very quickly on the tree. And if you can't mitigate harvest around capturing that at the very first phase, it'll dry on the tree. And fermenting that coffee is nearly impossible. So you have to be very creative with creating anything that's recognizable as specialty exportable coffee, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In the consumer sphere, people have been talking about all the trading, on the trading desks, people are confused at what the market's doing. Obviously there is a bunch of pressure coming from Vietnam because of their issues with production. But the noise in the system coming from Brazil and the frost risk reports were the only kind of understanding of why the market's rallying so much. It's pretty obvious to me now that actually all of the noise is about pricing and this unknown risk about where we're going to end up in terms of the quality spec that we can export this year. Would that be a fair assessment? Because the differentials don't seem to be moving at the moment, except for like the Rio stuff going down. But my guess is that at the end of the harvest, the diffs on Brazilian coffee will come way down in order to kind of have a favourable selling market, if that makes sense, because the quality is so low. Is that true or not?
No, it depends.
Okay.
It depends. I think it's too early to say this.
Okay.
Because we have in the half the crop season in Brazil.
Right.
We need to stay and wait a little bit more to understand the quality and the general aspect, because we have other coffee regions
Yes.
that have possibility to provide the accessibility for the high quality. For example, we have this problem here, but the quality is good, it's working.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have other coffee growers in Brazil, they don't have the access, the information to make some process to change and increase the quality very fast, because the unripe cherries is coming and increase a lot. And I think in general we need to wait and discuss the possibilities in terms of quality inside the Brazil.
Yeah. So there's a bit of panic probably happening, yeah.
Yes, I think that's
Which always happens, but this seems to be a bit more, because there's no black and white risk assessment, it's all pretty confusing, so people are kind of trying to respond to that the best way they can, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's not the very first time that they are handling with the
No.
situation like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think every harvest is a challenge, because you can get those very extreme climate conditions like the frost or this very hot winter. So so the plant will respond in a very crazy way.
Yeah.
And then so what Lucas is saying makes sense, because we have so many producing regions in the country. Obviously some regions are suffering more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the middle of the harvest, and this that Lucas pointed out is important too. So does the producer have knowledge and access to any support from universities or institutions to help them processing this coffee, the very unripe coffees or the very overripe ones?
Mm-hmm.
So how are they handling this in a post-harvest scenario?
But I can't imagine too many private operators are as well equipped as you are here to deal with this. So, I mean, without you being here this year, the quality would be extremely in question from me or not.
Yeah, but think about the possibilities. Brazil have many universities, and we have a good agronomists, the food scientists, and I think the challenger is to connect.
Yes.
Connect the correct way to understand the time to make decision, to turn the key, to turn the mind, and understand what's happening, and to decide to increase some process and reduce another process. For example, this crop is impossible to make a washed coffee because we don't have perfect cherries to make the process. What I decided to do to increase the fermentation and add microorganisms, add synthetic sugar to increase the fermentation processing inside the bioreactor, because the Saccharomyces, for example, need to access the sucrose. And if I don't have sucrose in a natural way on the cherries, that's possible to add the synthetic sucrose to increase the activity of the microorganism. But we need the smart mind think about this very fast.
Well, it has to be very reactive.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective on the infusion stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, really, kind of a different kind of a different pathway into that conversation. The biological necessity for it versus the experimental kind of desire for it, eh?
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing about managing that? Is it the time? Is it the lack of time you have in order to prove the fermentation protocols in harvest? Like doing a test, seeing it to completion, cupping, and then by that time you've already had tons of cherry come through that you have to figure out what to do with whilst you're waiting for the experiment. Is that a tough thing to deal with?
I think the future, because that we are seeing this time in Brazil, it's completely new. Probably in the future we need to access some protocols that the wine industry use to decide which way is the best to do when the coffee cherries arrive.
Right.
Yeah, I think we have some methodologies that we developed a few years ago to use the chemical tools, the analytical tools to decide. Because, for example, when we have a lot of unripe cherries, now we have a protocol. We need to make this post-harvest process. Yes. But if I have a lot of perfect cherries, which way is the best?
Yes.
I don't know. We need to study the possibilities, and we need to quantify the sugar content. We need to quantify the chemical contents on the coffee cherries. The microbiology is very important to understand. The life is living inside the coffee cherries to decide which process is the best in terms of sensorial profile. But I'm talking about the future.
Yes.
Because we need the investment to have the laboratory here, to have the people with the expertise to do something and very fast. For example, to make the GCA MS analysis, we spend a lot of time to conclude, and the coffees can't wait.
Meanwhile, they can't wait. But you seem to have done a lot of protocol building this crop in the last month. But is that all an extension of the things that you already know? But it seems like you're dealing with things that you've never dealt with before as well.
But I think in my case it's because the feeling.
Because of your intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but not everyone has a Lucas. So,
Yeah, but there are a lot of producers that have consultants.
True.
So agronomists will go there and help them out, to find a solution. So how we're going to process this lot that's coming with a lot of unripe cherries or overripe cherries. So they have some kind of support, but not a full-time Lucas, of course. Yeah.
But the library of protocols that you've come up with this year will be very interesting. And some of the results are like 21, 22, 23.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, and you have 3 methods there.
3, exactly.
Yeah, so we have the aerated fermentation in one of them. We have the bioreactor in another, and the yeast.
Yeah.
So 3 methods of, a way to rescue the coffee somehow.
Yeah.
And they worked very, very
I think
well.
probably because this event for this year, we are going to start the conversation with the other coffee growers around here, the cooperatives, to share our pain, and we need to discuss the protocols for the future. Yeah. If we have this climate condition, let's prepare this way to reduce the pressure, the climate pressure on the post-harvest process. And I think the modern coffee industry needs to understand this, because we had a lot of information. We need to access and use very fast to make the correct decision in terms of post-harvest protocols to do.
But what's the forum for that conversation to take place amongst the network of people that it needs to? Is it all just by brute force, or is there can you do it? Is there a conference at the end of every year, kind of thing? Does the state get involved? Like, how do you have that conversation on a large scale with people, or do you just have to do it yourself and connect?
One-to-one.
Yeah. Okay.
So they might know other producers here, and they know, and Lucas have a lot of producers that he knows in Espírito Santo and Bahia and Cerrado and
But this is a good point.
So they are in touch.
This is a good point, because normally the coffee events in Brazil happens after the crop season end. And every year we are discussing about the past.
Yes.
Okay. So are those coffee events? Where do they happen, and how do they happen?
It depends. For example, the International Coffee Week happens in November and December, and we are going to see the final results, the crop, the competition, baristas, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I think in this case it should be very interesting to have like a conversation to see the problem. To bring the people for your farm to share the knowledge, and the other state, other regions to discuss the possibility.
Do we have? Well, I'm asking you because I don't know about that. But do we have any type of green coffee event where only the producers will meet to discuss this kind of thing? Because you talked about Semana Internacional do Café, but it's much more market related. It's just like a World of Coffee.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not really focused on the producers.
No, in a scientific perspective, unfortunately.
We have to do something.
Yeah,
it's interesting, right? Because you'd think there would be some sort of collective forum.
Absolutely. Like a green coffee symposium.
Well, even on the basis that it's so important to GDP. From an economic perspective, it's like, what are we doing about coffee this year? It's interesting. Cool. Well, let's see how everything turns out. But coffee's tasting good. No? Very good. Cool.
Yeah, I think because Brazil, we have different universities and public institutes make science and share the knowledge. It's good, but we spread a lot of information all the time. It's necessary to centralize and share for example, we're gonna see the hot winter. We need to prepare the protocol for the harvest, as we made in COVID pandemic. In COVID pandemic, the public universities, institute in Brazil, they create like a council, and to promote the protocols, the safety protocols for the people work. I think in terms of quality, going to be necessary to think about this, because when we have a perfect year, perfect season, I make my job, you are make your job, Fabiana is making her job. But now we are in the crisis. We have a big problem. We have the same situation in Cerrado, the same situation in Espírito Santo, the same situation in South Minas.
Yes.
And we are talking about 20 million of bags.
Fucking hell. Which is about what? 1/3 of the production? Maybe more?
Brazilian production.
56 million bags or so?
For this crop, probably for 56.
Yeah, okay.
For this year.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Almost half.
Almost half.
Yeah, that's the issue. But
but we don't know how the producers are handling that.
No,
so
but we also
that's what Lucas is saying. So they're going to meet up in November to say, I've done that, I've done that.
On the past, okay, the coffee's gone.
Okay. What about next year?
Yeah.
So how can we set up a safety protocol for next year?
Yeah. But also, the kind of sentiment buying side is that there's really kind of, to use Sam's word, nebulous, speculative activity happening in the market, which is driving this price up, which has got nothing to do with coffee on the ground. Because the reports a month ago was that it's all good, there's coffee everywhere in Brazil, it's all bullshit. And it's like, yeah, there might be, but I mean, it's a more nuanced problem because the coffee that is there is like extremely different to what it should be. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say from a buyer side, people are going to really struggle to kind of reconcile where the market's at versus what's coming out of Brazil. I predict it'll be very strange. And the differential equation there will be be interesting to look at about where it starts, where like natural start trading, because there won't be any. And where they are, they'll be crap probably, right? Mm-hmm. Interesting.